All right, welcome to week 2 of Principles of Marketing. Today we're going to talk about one of the most, what I think is one of the most important topics for marketers to deal with. I mean, if I had to think about it and had to put the top 4 or 5 lectures for the entire semester in terms of importance, this is going to be probably number 3, number 4, because everything that we do in marketing is all about customer value. If you can't deliver value to your customers, they're not going to come back. It's that simple. So we're going to talk about customer value, what it is, and we're also going to talk about, relationships and why customers want relationships, why marketers want relationships, and, things like this. So what we're going to have this week is we're going to have 3 lectures. One on customer value, the second one's going to be on consumer behavior, and the third one will be relatively short because it's about business-to-business marketing. It's not an unimportant topic, but there's just not really, in the context for a principles of marketing class, a lot you can really get into. So let's get started. So customer value. When we think about value, many different things will come to mind. We may think of the value menu at McDonald's or one of the other restaurants. But value from a marketing perspective is really the difference between the benefits that a customer receives and the total cost that is incurred from acquiring, using, and disposing of a product. And it doesn't matter what the price of a product is. A product can be very expensive and still gain value. For example, years ago, my father, who has been a miser, I guess, his entire life, went out and bought a $65,000 Hyundai Equus. It's the top of the line Equus that Hyundai makes. And, I was amazed when he called me that night and said that he had went out and paid cash for this car. And I asked him, I said, I hope you got a color I like, because you're getting kind of old, but, that's a different story. He said, well, the amazing thing is that when I got it home, I was sitting there and there was a knock on my door, and opened it, and there's the salesman. And the guy just said, oh, I forgot to give you your owner's manual. So he gives him a box. And my dad opens it up, and it was an iPad. An iPad that had an app on it that had the owner's manual for the Equus. Now, my dad was happy with his purchase, but after he had made the call to me to find out what an iPad actually was, he became ecstatic. He goes, that thing's worth $500? Wow, that's amazing. So he spent $65,000 and he got great value. And it's not all just about the car. It's about how he was treated and about everything else that came with it. So value is basically what we always are trying to seek to deliver to customers. So one of the ways that we can look at value is, again, I'm a very graphical, I look at everything in a graphical way, I guess, is that we can look at value as the difference between the benefits that one gets and the price and other costs that is incurred. Now, benefits kind of come in a couple of different flavors. You have functional benefits, you have service benefits, and you have the brand benefits, or just the benefits of owning a particular product. Now, cost is not only what you pay. It's not only the purchase price of a product. What did it cost you to acquire it? How much time did you have to spend? Things like this. So as you can see here, the difference between the benefits you gain, and the price and other costs you pay, that's what we call value. So here's another way to look at it. The benefits that a product delivers, they involve more than just the functional use of a product. Now, when we think about functional use, it's really, why did we buy a product? For example, the functional use of a drill bit is not a drill bit. It's to create a hole. We buy a drill bit to make a hole, no other reason. I don't think many people are going around going, let me show you my collection of drill bits, but there could be somebody. But there are other benefits that we get as well, such as the brand, I guess the particular type of, or a particular brand of a drill bit. And if there's, for example, a lifetime warranty on the drill bit, these are all benefits that you get. Benefits can also be emotional, because some consumers, they do gain an emotional benefit from owning a particular brand. I mean, think about if you're walking around wearing just a white polo shirt with no logo on it versus one that is, I guess, a high-end Versace type brand. Again, that gives you something other than just the product itself. There are service benefits as well. For example, sometimes the manufacturer will throw things in that are going to add some type of value to it. For example, going back to my dad's Equus, he has the car has a very special tire setup. The front tires and the back tires are different sizes. So to rotate them requires a little bit different work. Hyundai comes out to my dad's house, picks up the car, takes it back, does the service, rotates the tires, changes the fluids and things like that, and returns it to him. That's extra. And again, that's a big deal in many cases. So again, we look at all of the benefits that come from owning a particular product or buying a particular product when we're taking into account the value that we're seeing with it. But there are also costs that we don't always associate with buying a product. Of course, we have the purchase price. Okay? But what about costing to use it? Think about the difference between a laser printer and the inkjet printers that most of us have. I mean, you can go out today and you can buy a printer for next to nothing, but getting the ink cartridges, well, that's going to be a little bit more expensive, and the usage costs makes a big difference. You also have the aspect of maintenance of a product. How much does it cost to maintain, to keep it working, to keep it going? And finally, you have that aspect about disposal. I mean, if you think about oftentimes automobiles, we realize from all of the data, as soon as you buy a new car and you drive it off the lot, it is 25% less valuable the moment you drive off the lot. Well, different cars have different resale values. Well, all of these things are taken into account when we're taking into the aspect of cost. So when we think about creating value for customers, by one, delivering something that they want, but also by understanding their wants and needs, this really allows a business to develop stronger customer relationships and also to build loyalty from customers. Companies, though, build customer relationships through its customer relationship management activities. And to know which customers to build relationship with, companies need to understand a customer's lifetime value. And I talked about that in the last lecture. Actually, it was the first lecture, which was the only one that was available last week. But again, we think about why are we trying to create value? Well, we know that if I create value, if I deliver value to you, you're going to have higher levels of satisfaction. The more satisfied you are, the more loyal you're going to be. It's that simple. Take care of people, give them a good value for what they're buying. They're going to be satisfied and they're going to buy from you again. So what is this thing, customer satisfaction? Well, we all can realize, we all know when we are satisfied with our experiences. Something that we bought, we're satisfied that it met the expectations that we have. We can put it into, I guess, the formal definition is that customer satisfaction is the degree to which a product meets or exceeds our expectations. But there's different levels there. Just meeting somebody's expectation and exceeding somebody's expectation, you could say that you're satisfied, but one is going to be more likely to lead to loyalty than the other. And that's when we exceed expectations. So let's put it this way. Imagine that you are curious about a new restaurant that you've heard good things about from your friends. When we think about getting any kind of new information, any type of recommendation, anything out there, we have an expectation. And when expectations are exceeded, we're going to be satisfied. So imagine that you go to a restaurant and you have a certain level of expectation. Let's say that if we wanted to put a number to it, let's say that we expected a level of 50. Okay, it's arbitrary, but let's just use some numbers to make it make sense. And the actual outcome, you get finished with your meal, everything's good. It's a 52, 55, somewhere in that area. You kind of got what you expected. Okay? But what happens if instead you expect it? Everybody's talking about how great it is and you expect an 80, but you get there and you go to the restaurant and it's a 70. Well, expectations are actually lower. The actual outcome is lower than what you expected. The chances of you going back, probably not as high unless something can be done to change your mind. But here's the best one. Let's say that you're expecting a 70 and you get a 90. What happens then? The restaurant blew you away. The food was incredible. The decor, the service, the atmosphere, everything was perfect. Man, you're going back there, aren't you? Well, that's what we're all about with customer satisfaction. One of the things that we have to be careful about is that we can't oversell it. We can't promise it's going to be the greatest adventure you're going to have in dining and not being able to deliver. So we have to manage what the expected outcome is going to be so that we can deliver the actual outcome. You know, years ago, Apple, I love Apple. I love their products. I'm sitting here with my iPad Pro right next to me with my iPhone and everything else. But they haven't always released great products. Apple introduced a product called the Apple Newton many years ago. This was before cell phones. And this was supposed to be, it was a PDA, personal digital assistant. That was supposed to keep your life organized and on track. And they sent this product out before they released it to a bunch of people on Wall Street, in the financial and news and writers and reporters, and said, hey, try this. Okay? So the reporters came back with glowing reviews. They loved it. I mean, this thing was just the greatest thing that they had ever seen. They loved it. It's going to be great. And everybody had expectations so high that Apple, no matter what, was not going to meet them because everybody just was overselling it. Now, I don't know if they did it intentionally to oversell it to make it sound like it's better than it was, but that's just what happened. The Newton hit the market. People looked at it and go, not that great. So you have to be careful how you manage expected outcomes. So in general, we can look at satisfaction as a person's feelings of pleasure or disappointment that results from, comparing a product's perceived performance or outcome to the expectations. If performance falls short of expectations, the customer is dissatisfied. If it matches expectations, the customer is satisfied. But if it exceeds expectations, and this is where we're shooting for always, the customer is going to be highly satisfied or what we call delighted. Now, customer assessment of like a product's performance depends on many factors, especially the type of loyalty relationship the customer has with the brand. And consumers often form more favorable perceptions of a product with a brand they already feel positive about. Like today, most of us, we get to try something with Apple. We're going to generally bond with it if we are Apple loyalists. So I know I kind of keep harping on this aspect about satisfaction and loyalty, but it's a critical element. The thing is that when a person has an experience with a product or service, that they're, like we have seen before, there's three possible outcomes that could happen with regards to satisfaction: negative, neutral, or positive. Think about a negative experience. Now, a negative experience is going to result in a person being very dissatisfied, and given the opportunity, they will defect to another product or service. They can't always defect because they may not have other choices. But as soon as they have the opportunity, they will leave. Now, with a neutral experience, the person can be satisfied as the product basically met their expectations. I thought I was going to get a 50, I got a 50. But if another option presents itself, they're likely going to switch to a competing product that kind of promises them more. But the key is this positive. And again, I don't want to stress this too much. It is that important. A positive experience will result in the person being delighted by the experience. And product loyalty is just starting. Okay? You can't deliver it only once and expect it to stay. For example, let's go back to the restaurant experience where I thought I was going to get a 70 and I got a 90. I was totally blown away. What happens next time I go to that restaurant? What is my expectation level? It's probably going to be up there toward the 90s. What if I get a 70? Ew, that's probably going to stop that loyalty effect. But oftentimes I'm going to give the benefit of a doubt. If I, had the one great experience, everything is awesome. The next time I go, it's probably as good as it was, maybe a couple of points below. I'll give them another shot, and I'll be adjusting my expectations every time I go. But if it was a negative experience from the start, they're likely not going to get a second chance.
Can I help you? Name, please.
Seinfeld, you made a reservation for a mid-size, and she's a small. I'm kidding around, of course.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, we have no mid-size available at the moment.
I don't understand. I made a reservation. Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservations.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car. See, you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation. And that's really the most important part of the reservation, the holding. Anybody can just take them.
Let me speak with my supervisor.
Here we go. The supervisor. You know what she's saying over there?
What?
Hey, Marge, see those two people over there? They think I'm talking to you. So you pretend like you're talking to me. Okay, now you start talking.
Oh, you mean like this, so it looks like I'm saying something, but I'm not really saying anything at all?
Okay, now you say something else, and they won't yell at me because they thought I was checking with you.
Oh, great, I think that's enough. See you later.
I'm sorry, my supervisor says there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, it looked like you were in a real conversation over there.
But we do have a compact if you would like that.
Fine.
All right. Well, we have a blue Ford Escort for you, Mr. Seinfeld. Would you like insurance?
Yeah, you better give me the insurance because I am going to beat the hell out of this thing.
You gotta love Seinfeld, don't you? So what else do we get from satisfied customers? Well, if you think about it, satisfied customers are loyal as they will continue to purchase your product over and over again. Many of them will also become product champions who's going to share their positive experiences with almost anyone who listens. They're going to have lower cost in terms of warranty expenses because they're generally going to report fewer problems, and they're going to call the company fewer times. They're going to complain fewer times. It actually just saves money by doing it the right way. They're also going to spend more money, where you're going to gain a larger share of their wallet, is what we call it, through more frequent purchases or buying other products that the company makes. So one of the things that you build on, you deliver good experiences, good products, and customers are going to want to buy it. You come out with something new, they're going to want to try it. They may be going to like that too. Now, satisfaction is one of the most important elements and most important things that a company can deliver to their customers. It's important to the long-term survival of almost any organization. As such, companies have to measure satisfaction of their customers using different surveys, either through the mail, the web, telephone, whatever it's going to be. They ask customers if they plan on purchasing from them in the future, or would they recommend the product or service to their friends. Most of the things that you can have, think about the times that you've bought a product. Have you ever experienced the aspect where they have contacted you or somebody contacted you to ask how you did? If you go to any kind of fast food restaurant, there's going to be a place on the receipt where you can basically tell them how well things worked. Measuring customer satisfaction is one thing, but we have to also measure it. Not only just to measure it, we have to measure it to improve. Now, there are a couple of ways that we can measure it. One, we can do it internally. You have an encounter with my company, either on the phone or one of my employees, and I can contact you to ask how things went. But there's also external sources. For example, J.D. Power. They basically contact almost every single person that buys a new car, and they measure their satisfaction. They measure how well the experience was with the dealership, how well they're liking the car. Oftentimes they'll call back in 12 months, 24 months to see where that satisfaction is with that vehicle now. Then there's another one called the American Customer Satisfaction Index, the ACSI. It's put out by the University of Michigan by a marketing professor there, and every single quarter they measure about 75,000 different people on their experience with every type of product and brand you can imagine. If you go to the ACSI website, you're going to find a list of every single type of manufacturer, from beer to airlines to banks to cell phones, cars, you name it. They're there, and they measure customers constantly to be able to understand how things change over time. One of the things I found interesting with this, and I kind of use it whenever I invest in a company, is I go through and I measure and look at how their satisfaction index has been tracking and progressing. If you notice a downtick, when a company's satisfaction starts to decline, sales are going to be declining right behind it. It is kind of a precursor, if you will. So it's a lot of things that you can do with the ACSI. So the next thing to look at is the next step, and that's basically loyalty. Now, consumers exhibit different degrees of loyalty. Some hold no loyalty to brands at all. Instead, they select the lowest price every time they go in. Doesn't matter what brand it is, whoever's cheapest. And for many of us, for many different products, that's probably how we are. But for certain brands, we continually buy the same brand over and over again, no matter what the cost is. This is where others, they basically exhibit loyalty to 2 to 3 different brands. I'm going to choose between any of these, whichever one kind of strikes my mood that week. But there's some buyers, as I said, who exhibit very high degrees of loyalty to specific brands and will only purchase that brand. There's very few products probably that fit that category with me. One is probably not a product that's good for me, but Coca-Cola. I will only buy Coke Classic. I will never touch Pepsi or any of the others soft drinks that are out there. If I can't have Coke, I'll drink water. So customers really attempt to ensure that high loyalty customers remain that way, and while at the same time trying to encourage those who exhibit just some degrees of loyalty to become more highly loyal. So customers work on this because if I can get you to only buy my brand, the customer lifetime value is going to increase. This is not rocket science, folks. This is really simple. Take care of the customers. They'll take care of you in the long term. So when we think about loyalty, I mean, it's easy to understand why it's important. You have customers taken care of, they come back and buy from us again. On the surface, that's easy to understand, but let's put it into some quantitative analysis, if you will. So think about the value of customers. Well, research has shown that about 80% of a company's profits come from about 20% of their customers. They're heavy users, if you will. About 20% of profits are generated by 60% of customers. But there's 20% of customers that cost me money. I get no profit from them, and oftentimes I operate a loss for these customers. Now, companies go through today and they generally analyze customers. This isn't as easy in the consumer market as it is in the business-to-business market, but they go through and they look at customers. This group of customers is costing me money. I'm not making any profits off of them. What can I do? If I can find a way to turn them into profitable customers, whether it means that I'm going to reduce the cost that I need to service them or find ways to get them to be more profitable, then I'll try. But what if I can't make any changes? What if I'm just going to operate at a loss? Well, then you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. Is this customer valuable to me in another way? For example, it could be a large customer that is operating at the point of just breaking even. Well, if that large customer is keeping my factories running or allowing me to lower the overall production cost of my product, it might be worth keeping. But if not, I may need to find ways to cut them loose. Send them off to my competitor. That's the best thing that can happen. So we talk about firing customers. Well, in 2007, Sprint actually fired 1,000 customers for being what they called problematic. These customers called an average of 90 times a month, often as much as 12 times a day, to demand credit or to complain about something with their cell service. Sprint had enough. They sent them a letter and said in 30 days, you no longer have an account with Sprint. Find another carrier. Well, the news media got hold of it and was outraged and livid. However, they also talked to AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, all of them, and they had also admitted that they fired customers as well. They just didn't do 1,000 at a time and make it so obvious that what they were doing. But if you think about what happens, think about these 1,000 customers that Sprint fired. They're going to get cell service, right? Well, they're going to get it now from one of the other carriers, and they're going to be a costly customer for that other carrier. So, like I said earlier, it's a win-win. Sometimes we think about customers and customers complaining. We want customers to complain. Okay? Some companies think they're getting a sense of customer satisfaction by telling complaints, but really studies show that while customers are dissatisfied with their purchases only about 25% of the time, that only about 5% of those actually complain. So we have basically 25% dissatisfaction, if you will. But only 5% of those people are actually going to complain. 95% don't complain at all. They just stop buying from you. And they generally tell about 11 people. That number has actually increased significantly with the advent of social media. You're telling thousands of people. But think about those 5% that complain. 54 to 70%, they buy again if the problem is resolved. But 95% are going to buy from you again if the problem is resolved quickly. And they too tell people. Not as many, but with social media, again, that number is growing completely. But this leads to a couple of things. One of the things that we look at is called the service recovery paradox. One of the most interesting aspects out there is what we call the service recovery paradox. Now stick with me. This gets a little tedious, or not tedious, but maybe a little difficult to understand, so I'm going to try my best with it. The service recovery paradox basically states that a highly effective service recovery can result in a higher level of customer satisfaction than in a case where a service failure did not exist. Let me see if I can explain that. Let's say that you go in to a restaurant and you're expecting a outcome of, again, we're going to put 60 on it. So you're thinking you're going to get a 60 when in fact you get a 40. Horrible. Didn't work. Nothing went great with this aspect, with your visit. What the service recovery paradox basically states is that if they take care of the problem and they do it in such a way, they can move your satisfaction level from the 40 that you experienced to about a 60 or 65, or even a 70, depending on how well they do it. The key here is to make sure it's done quickly and make sure it's done without ever having to get approval or, have the customer make you do it. You do it on your own. One of the things that we look at with the service recovery paradox, it reminds me of something that happened to me many years ago. It was on Father's Day, as a matter of fact, and I was living in Michigan. I was a professor up there, and I went out to play golf with the vice president of Kellogg, which was his wife, and my wife were good friends. So we went to play golf on Father's Day. And after we played golf, we went to a new restaurant in town that had just opened called Red Robin. I'm sure you're familiar with it. So the restaurant had just been opened recently. So we go in, we sit down, The young lady comes over, she takes our drink orders, gets our stack of onion rings and our burger order. And so we're sitting there, we're talking about the kids, talking about golf, talking about business, just chit-chatting. And so we go through our drinks because, of course, it's June, it's hot. And we can't get the young lady attention. So we waited about another 5 minutes, and she still doesn't bring us anything, a refill of our drinks. Another 10 minutes goes by, and I'm not being very happy right this minute, although I'm a generally nice guy, but, I was getting a little hot around the collar. And eventually, after about 25 minutes from our first order, we haven't had our drinks refilled, nor have we had our burgers. So I stop her when she walked by, and I, kind of reached out and said, hey, and so she stops. She goes, let me go check on it. She comes back, and she has our drinks with us, and she looks at me, and she goes, what was your order again? Okay, so she didn't have our order. Well, okay, so nice, try to, manage it nicely, gave her the order. Well, a couple of seconds later, here comes the manager, and the manager apologizes. He goes, we're just opening, we're just getting everything smoothly running, this past week, and, we broke down, something happened. Give me your order. I've got burgers. She told me it was burgers, so I've got them cooking. I'll have your burger out here in 7 minutes. Well, 7 minutes later, had a burger. It was great. So we finish our meal. The manager comes back, and he apologized again. He goes, you know what? I don't want this to be a negative impression that you have about Red Robin. So your meal's on us. Well, Raj, who happens to be the like I said, the VP of marketing for Kellogg, he's happy. Well, one, he lost at golf, so he was going to have to buy lunch anyway. But two, the manager said, but that's not enough. I want to make sure you come back. Here's a $10 coupon. So next time you come in, use this coupon. We're going to show you we can do a better job. Well, Raj is now ecstatic. Raj is happy as I have ever seen anybody over a $10 coupon. And you got to imagine, VP of marketing for a Fortune 100 company, Raj made some serious money, but a $10 coupon set him off. And Raj would tell me later that he went back for lunch. He even took the president of Kellogg to Red Robin because it was right down the road. So he was happy. He was ecstatic. There was a breakdown in the service. The problem was fixed, and it was fixed better than we would have expected, or better than Raj would have expected. So Raj was ecstatic. His level of satisfaction was significantly higher than if nothing had happened. So the service recovery paradox does work. As for me, it had no impact. One, there was a couple of things at play here. One, I was not buying lunch anyway because I won at golf. Two, 2 weeks earlier, I had been in Washington, D.C. for a conference, and we had gone out to dinner at a Brazilian restaurant. And we're all dressed up in suits. The ladies were in, their dresses. We were in suits. We just come from, the conference. And, this place, I think it was $95 a person for dinner. And there was I think 13 of us. Well, while we're sitting there in the restaurant, here comes one of the young men with the big tray of meat, and he trips. Well, he tripped, and over my right side of my shoulder all the way down to my lap, juice, meat, everything just falls right in my lap. The lady next to me, her dress is covered as well. A couple other people have stains and spots everywhere. So the restaurant gave the entire table meal free. All of us. 13 people, $95 each, covered. Now, they wouldn't cover the beverages because those were probably as much, but I knew I was getting my meal free after what happened at Red Robin. Just because there was a service recovery breakdown, and I knew that they would make good on it. But the $10 coupon had no effect because, again, it just wasn't enough. I didn't have any skin in the game because Raj was buying lunch anyway. So, if something goes wrong, fix it. Fix it as fast as you can. Make the customer happy. It'll be worth it. So we look at all of this about loyalty, about building customers, and another reason that we have to keep in mind that's why it's so important is that with our current customers, we lose customers. We lose them through attrition. We lose them for other reasons. They move away, they die, things in their life change, whatever it's going to be. And we're spending time and energy and effort recruiting new customers to replace lost customers. So recruiting new customers is always going to be important. However, if you can keep the customers from defecting for no reason other than they moved or something changed in their life where they had no need for your product anymore, then you're going to be ahead of the game. We will always continue to recruit new customers, but if I can keep more of my old customers, my profits are just going to increase dramatically. Take care of customers. So why is it so important to keep customers? Well, think about these facts. Acquiring a new customer costs about 5 times more than it does to retain a current customer. The average company loses about 10% of its customers yearly. And if I can reduce customer defections by 5%, I can increase my profit from 25 to 85% just by reducing my defections. Because if I put the same amount of energy, let's put it in this way in numbers. Let's say that I have 100 customers and I lose 10% on average. Okay? So I have 100, I lose 10%, I'm down to 90. Well, every year I have to replace 10 customers. So I spend this money to replace 10 customers. I lose 10, I gain 10. Well, let's imagine that if I can reduce the number of customers that I lose. Instead of losing 10, I only lose 8. I gain 2 customers because I'm still going to add 10. So now I'm going to have 102 customers. Next year, I'm going to have even more and even more and even more. Take care of customers. Keep customers. It's going to come back and it's going to just add value to you every single year. So this brings us down to the end. We think about all of the things that we've talked about. Delivering good satisfaction. Taking good care of customers. Trying to build loyalty with customers. Well, managing this, it's not haphazard. There's work that has to be done. And to do this, we deal with the aspect of relationship marketing. And this is where an organization is really committed to developing and enhancing those long-term, mutually beneficial relationships with profitable or potentially profitable customers. We have to work hard at it. We have to manage the process, but it's worth it. And again, since over a 5-year period, I can lose half of my customers and it costs so much money to retain them, well, a small increase can make a difference. Take care of customers with good customer relationship management. It's going to lead to better loyalty, higher retention, higher profits, higher bonuses for the marketing manager, for everybody. It's worth the effort. But keep in mind that building a relationship with customers requires the complete commitment on part of the organization. As customers have different reasons for seeking some type of brand customer relationship, our organizations must understand their motives and must be willing to commit to a long-term plan and to make the necessary investments. If you think about it, why would a customer want to build a relationship with you? Well, if you think about it, it makes our life easier as consumers. If I have a brand that is my go-to brand, I don't have to think. Okay? I don't have to make judgment decisions about which toothpaste I'm going to buy. Now, I don't have a relationship with Crest. I have a brand loyalty to Crest. But the thing is, for many types of products, for many types of companies, building a type of relationship with them can add value. Think about what Apple does. Do I have a relationship with Apple? Tim Cook doesn't know who I am. But Apple does. Because one, I've owned a lot of products from Apple. Apple keeps in contact with me. They have realized the value of having me as a customer. So it adds value to me. Because one, I know that if I have issues, Apple's going to take care of them. The aspect, and again, I'm not I don't know, what do you call Apple guys? I'm not an Apple geek. So there's this aspect of sense of belonging. I don't display my Apple decal that comes in every product, but I like them because they work. And I like them because they have worked to make sure that if I have issues or problems with my products, they do address them. All right, so that's it for this week. The big thing I want you to take away from this, take care of customers. You take care of customers, they will remain loyal to you. They remain loyal to you, they'll continue to buy from you. They continue to buy from you, you make more profit, everybody's happy. All right, that's it for the first selection of the week. The next one will be popped up in the next day or so. Have a great day.